Should you back Lands of Evershade? I'm going to tell you why you shouldn't. As always, though, if I'm wrong and you look at these points and you say, those aren't issues for me, Chris, go for it. But no FOMO, and why I'm going to tell you, you shouldn't. Let's go. Let's do this. So first up, right, the big disclaimer that I have to put out there right now on all campaigns, as needs to be said across the board, no rule book, no dinero, right? There's too much unknown with campaigns nowadays, and the larger and larger these graphical displays seem to be of just fantastic looking artwork, it's to entice you to not pay attention to what else isn't there. That has to be said every single time when we're talking about, as always, how I like to phrase it nowadays, your free loan that you are giving them. Whether you like to give them your free loan all up front, or, ooh, boy, howdy, that stretch pay, which dives into another segment or segue, I guess, as a whole, right? If you are requiring stretch pay to pay for this, that's a bad sign, folks. No, I didn't say you like to use stretch pay, but I saw someone on another big currently funding campaign from a big miniature game standpoint that you might even call enormous, that said, I don't know why you're not using GameFound. I can't get this now because you're not doing stretch pay. Ooh, right? So just be aware. That's not a good reason to be looking at it. Because I can stretch pay it. Okay, no. But that aside, right? Is this, mechanically speaking, this could be the best Awaken Realms game of all time, but is it the best Awaken Realms game for you? And that's what gets lost nowadays in the advertisements. Oh, sorry, no, previews, right? It's a whole nother video. How about somehow how marketing on the board game publisher side of things convinced you that previews are not actually just advertisements. We got the word preview as a whole now. Anyway, but that's the question, right? It might be the best narrative-driven D&D-esque dungeon crawl. We'll get to that in a second, quote unquote, forever. But is that what you actually want out of a game? Per one of the impressions videos that was out there based on the prototype, there was something along the lines of five combat encounters in 17 hours of gameplay was the quote, right? Something along those lines. Is that what you're looking for? That almost screams more 7th Continent, 7th Citadel, rather than like Midara, Dungeon Crawl, Odalin, Tenaris adventures, if you will. You know, again, just opposite sides of the spectrum. So what is it that makes this game great for you? As I always say, when you're watching someone's video, just because it was great for someone, right? Was it great for you? Not that things were great, but if that mechanic doesn't work for you, and if you don't want, this is a great next point, D&D the board game, right? This is D&D the board game for people who can't get, D&D, Pathfinder. I'm using that as a generic Kickstarter adjective verb to describe it, right? If you can't get a role-playing game played, this is supposedly going to be the thing for you, right? That's how I'm looking at it. I would love to have a role-playing game D&D group style of things. I can't. Can this act as sort of a simile or a in the place of that niche that you can't get filled? As with those role-playing games, right? Sometimes how you choose your system is based off of what you want out of that system in the first place. Or better yet, I'll make the argument, what you want out of the group, right? If you're a GM, you know that your group might love traps and surprises. You might know that your group is going to love a good mystery whodunit. You might know that your group wants 3 things of combat in each and every session. What do you want out of this? Because what you want out of it might not be what they're giving you if the combat to narrative ratio is that much of an extreme. If you want the opposite, or you want the most dynamic, mechanically interesting, Euro-based optimization, or just slug them out all the time, bash them, crash them, and smash them, well, this isn't going to be for you either. So what are your expectations into this? The other aspect of this is how much do you want to pay for the non-board game content? Because essentially, you're getting a handbook. You're paying for that. You may not look at it like that. You may not, separate out accounting-wise that being a portion of things, but you're paying for that. Is character creation. Do you want a RPG, a Skyrim level detail character customization of things that are kind of going to seem important, but once you get 10 hours in, are they really going to be that dramatically different? Can you find that that is where your enjoyment is? Are you a character creation person, or are you a gameplay person? Because I'd make the argument that in too many other systems in board games, the diversity comes after the playing, not in the character creation. They all start out with just this slight nuance, and only after you develop them further. Well, the problem is right now, you can see a good portion of the handbook, and you can start to see some of that, but is that actually going to be what it brings? And similarly, the other issue I wonder about, they've got campaigns and scenarios out there at this point that are being marketed for the high level stuff. And if you know anything about the RPG side of things, Pathfinder, D&D, right? Everything is scalable. However, everything is not equal in its ability to be done well. And arguably on the RPG side of things, one of the most common consistent comments is that there are not great high-level adventures for, your end-stage characters, if you will. Your penultimate or your ultimate super-leveled OP characters, the ones who are casting Wish or things like that, or summoning demons with your mages, or your ultra-uber barbarian tanking everything. And so they're marketing it as we've got that stuff. We've got that stuff. I don't know. Is that actually going to work? When you can't show me it. I just talked about in my enormity video with Into the Unknown. I said, look, this is what the prototype is constrained to. But also, there are a lot of significant gaps of what you're telling me the mechanics are going to be. Because you could not, it was not possible, feasible, or in any way, shape, or form able to be done to show all of the mechanics that this game is going to have to offer in that small package. And I would make the argument that this is going to be the same. But is it going to be that extent where it fills in all of those gaps that you are worried about, like this high-level adventure stuff? Is that actually going to be feasible? Are you willing to throw money at potential? I said it with enormity. I say it with this. And again, lining it up to the beginning of the video. Is that potential going to be what you want? Because we're seeing now with the previous iteration of Grim Coven that they are changing significant dynamics of the mechanical gameplay as a whole. So is that going to leave you wanting? Speaking of the gameplay, though, because this is a narrative campaign, adventure, sprawling, whatever, right? How open is this going to be, right? They say that you're going to have a different experience when you have different characters, right? They're going to open up different dialogues, different narratives, different, options. But I worry that this is more like a Madara, more in those vague lines of things where the choke points of this game, even though your characters might have slightly different options, is going to be very, very similar. So you're always going to come across this boss. You're always going to run into this interaction. How much of that is going to, again, be different? Is this going to give you Baldur's Gate 3 level immersion and level differences and level dynamics when you choose a different character? And I'd make the argument that, well, no, it can't. That's a freaking video game. You can internalize all of that. Otherwise, again, you're going to have a book like this, or you're going to have to do that. And so then that goes to the beginning of how many years are you willing to wait to get this to find out if that's actually going to be, or are you just better off going to buy Baldur's Gate 3 and playing that instead to get that level of an experience that you want, not only mechanically from a combat standpoint, but also an immersive role-playing standpoint as well. There are just some things that are done better on consoles, folks. And this mimicking, this trying to get as close to possible as a console video game style of things, I think it's starting to reach its tipping point where either the apps or the tokens or the booklets or the writing are hitting the fan or hitting the walls, because I have not seen dramatically great, narrative writing as a whole. And I say that as someone who loves some of the stuff that has been presented, like your Enormity, like your Aeon Trespass Odyssey, like those things with Tainted Grail. Like there's fine stuff. But I'd also make the argument that, if I want the really good stuff, I'm going to go elsewhere. So that isn't an enticement for me. And let's be honest, if you go buy Baldur's Gate 3, you're probably going to play it for a hell of a lot more hours. It's also going to be a hell of a lot cheaper. And you don't have to wait until sometime 2027 if you're somebody that's going to get the one wave shipping all combined, because for some reason they've also gone back to the 2-wave shipping, which I swear I read previously, and maybe I'm just making this up in my head again, because I've been known to do that, make stuff up in my head and talk about it in the channel, and I'm an idiot as always, but that they were getting away from that, just like they were getting away from the monetary stretch goals, both of which are now seemingly back. And I go, okay, great. Then the ambition that goes along with this, right? This seems like, again, never the issue with Awaken Realms of can you have enough content, but can the scope and the clarity and the ambition be reined in enough to make less more? Because I don't need a game to be everything to everyone. I need a game that is going to give the best experience for me. This is a Gaussian distribution. You're trying to hit as many people as you can as much as possible. But the truth is, the more people you're trying to hit, the more diffuse you're making things, the more ambiguous or the more scope creep or the more just all over the place it's going to be. And then you end up with stuff that kind of works, but also kind of doesn't work. How many expansions are actually going to be fitting to you? Because the other thing I just, was talking about in the comment section with someone else tonight, that a lot of people are going to look at this and I have to have everything. Is this going to be a complete game if you don't get all of the gameplay content? Question mark. The other thing that I have to put out there as well received as these games are, is this game actually, as we talked about again recently, value-wise, because that's the other lens that people are looking at it through now that they've gone back to the GameFound exclusive. And I would make the argument that apart from like the first game or two with Awaken Realms, the overall value, the overall price difference, because that's what people are always worried about, is that I'm getting a better deal than you. Not that it's a great deal for me, always. That is part of it, but it's that I'm going to get a better deal than you later at retail. You are going to get a bad deal. I'm going to get such a better deal than you. I'm looking at the Dead Cells Collector's Edition right now as well on the secondary market, right? What's the difference between the Collector's Edition and the non-Collector's Edition? It's one character and it's like 3 cards gameplay content-wise. It's got some other trinkets to go along with it, but that's the essential as a gameplay all-in person that I tend to be sometimes. And I said, oh, geez, I can't do without that. Oh, man, I can't do without that. And I was like, wait a second. One character? You're not going to play this enough to notice the depth of, difference of one character? Or is it going to be more of a Cthulhu Death May Die? Oh, no, I don't have 30 extra investigators. I only have 60 to begin with from my first 2 seasons. Like, oh no, I only have, 17 types of character creation I can do instead of the 19 or 20. Oh no. I mean, don't get me wrong as well, right? That dragon as an exclusive is freaking amazing. But do you need the little expansion? Do you need the extra companions? Do you need the premium box or the books with leather covers, right? And the ratio, again, of gameplay lost content that you're going to get at GameFound minus compared to the retail side of things, especially with the retail now not going tremendously as much different. So let me go back to Nemesis Lockdown, right? Because you're going, Chris, I don't believe you. Chris, you're wrong. Okay, Nemesis Lockdown, let's take a look at it. Looking back, right? It's not apples to apples, but it's very apt to what we've seen more from the Awaken Realms games if you're one of those value people, right? My core base pledge was 95 pounds. Shipping was 32 pounds. 127 pounds is $161 right now at the time of me filming this. However, if I get from one of the places online right now, the various distributors of board games, purveyors online that sells them to you, for a combined, and not including shipping, although shipping probably going to run you an extra maybe $10 or so. If you can find them both at the same store, it's a little tough right now, because again, I'm looking at this currently at the time of me filming this, it was about $180. So what's that difference? That's about $19 difference, folks. This is not $50 difference. This is not $100 difference. This is the cost of shipping on another game difference. So it often seems like people are catastrophizing. If I don't get it, I'm going to be missing out on such a huge cost difference, Chris. You're not. You're not. Especially if you only go with the core pledge, which again is always the best value because you're not going to play the other expansions that are in the gameplay all in included, just like I don't. So with 3 expansions, each for $29, you know, are they actually going to be $29 later on the secondary market? I don't know. If you're selling for stuff on campaigns nowadays for like sub $50, especially if there's not a whole lot of exclusivity, they tend to go for even cheaper on the secondary market. So if you're concerned about missing the stretch goals, great, there you go. Pick up these later, because then also you can test it and see if you actually like it from that standpoint in addition. You're not FOMOing and then trying to sell as a bundle and then losing that $20 instead of paying $20 more because you waited and you saw. Because let's be clear, with these 3 expansions too, each of them at the time of me filming have like one enemy. Comes with one model or one standee for $30. Do you find that to be good value, even though it says it comes with a 100-page storybook? That's a lot of pages of a storybook of a CYA, choose your own adventure, from that aspect of things. So do you like flipping back and forth? Because that's what you're going to be doing a lot in this game. So there you go. That's all I got. Are you in or not? Is it right for you? Again, if all of that stuff sounds fantastic to you, go do it. I'm fine with that. But let's not FOMO either. Peace out. Stay classy. Subscribe. Hit me up on Patreon. Let's go.